Why did a modest budget model become a car for the elite in Poland? For some, it was the big Fiat. For others, the sideboard, or even the Bandit. Why did the British love this Polish car so much? And most importantly, how did the engineers at the FSO plant realize way back in the 70s that the future belonged to electric cars? Today, we're talking about the Polski Fiat 125P, the car that paved the way for Polish automotive exports and became a true symbol of the Cold War era behind the Iron Curtain. Let's go. After World War II, Poland found itself in the socialist bloc, a planned economy with ties to the West artificially cut off. The country had to be rebuilt on its own, and the shortage of cars was severe. The main hope of the automotive industry was the FSO plant in Warsaw. At first, they produced the Warsawa, a licensed copy of the Soviet Pobeda. Later, they added a fully Polish design, the Syrena compact car. However, despite upgrades, these cars were based on old World War II-era technologies. They were hopelessly outdated. In the early 60s, the country needed a new, modern, yet affordable car. Rather than reinventing the wheel, the Poles remembered some old connections. Back in the 1930s, Poland successfully assembled Italian Fiats under license. They decided to try again. The negotiations were a success. On December 22, 1965, Warsaw signed an agreement with Fiat to produce the mid-size Fiat 125 sedan. But how could a socialist country with no hard currency pay for capitalist technology? Very simply, through barter. Poland paid for the license with its coal, as well as engines and spare parts, which it produced itself and shipped back to the factories in Italy. In Italy, the 125 model was a completely new design, built on the base of the previous 1500 model, but with body elements from the brand new Fiat 124. Compared to it, the 125 had a longer wheelbase, and therefore, a more spacious interior. Under the hood hid a true masterpiece, a 1.6-liter, 90-horsepower engine from the famous designer Aurelio Lampredi. Acceleration to 100 kilometers per hour in 14 seconds, and a top speed of 160 kilometers per hour made this sedan a car with a sporty character. But for socialist Poland, this car turned out to be too cool and too expensive. The ministry wanted a simple, everyday car, not a premium sports sedan. So, the Italians compromised and created a heavily cost-reduced version, the Fiat 125P, where the P stood for Polski. It was essentially a mashup. The modern body and brakes from the 125 model were combined with older overhead valve engines, 1.3 and 1.5 liters, and the outdated leaf spring suspension from older Fiat models. Production started in November 1967. To save money, the original square headlights were replaced with double round ones. The bumper was taken from the Fiat 124, and instead of a luxurious wood grain dashboard, they installed ordinary plastic with a horizontal speedometer. But even in this stripped-down form, for the Poles, it was like a spaceship. Compared to the modest Syrena, the new Fiat felt like a luxury car. Comfortable seats, plenty of legroom, and a modern design. It was then that the car got its popular nicknames. Because of the angular, boxy body shape, which sharply contrasted with the bubbly cars of the past, it was nicknamed the Credence, meaning a sideboard or cabinet, a very popular piece of furniture at the time. The nickname Bandit, however, stuck because of the aggressive squint of those double-round headlights and the car's subsequent popularity among petty criminals. However, it never truly became a people's car. In its early years, the car cost about 100,000 zlotys, while the average salary was 2,000. Money was only half the problem. Because of the socialist planned economy, cars were distributed by the state. Just to get the right to buy a car, people stood in queues for 5 to 10 years. An absurdity emerged on the Polish car markets that is hard for Westerners to understand. A used Fiat often cost twice as much as a new one. simply because you could buy it secondhand, here and now, without the 10-year wait. Therefore, the big Fiat quickly became an attribute of the elite. It was driven by party officials, professors, and those who had foreign currency. It's interesting to compare the Polish Fiat with the Soviet Vaz 101, known in the West as the Lada. A battle raged on the markets of Eastern Europe. The spacious comfort of the Pole versus the better dynamics of the Lada, with its more modern engine. And while the USSR stamped out new models of classics, the Poles focused on just one car. Station wagon and pickup versions appeared. The FSO pickup became a true workhorse for small businesses. Thanks to the old but durable rear leaf spring suspension, the car easily carried about 400 kilograms of cargo. Ambulances were mass-produced based on the station wagons. But the body turned out to be too short for a stretcher. To fit a patient in, designers had to slap on clumsy fiberglass extensions, or place the stretcher diagonally. An exclusive model was the lengthened 7-seater limousine version, the Jamnik, or Dachshund, which is now incredibly rare. And for speed lovers, in 1977, designers created the FSO Ogar concept. It was supposed to be a sort of Polish Mustang, a sports car with a fiberglass body and trendy pop-up headlights hidden in the hood. Unfortunately, due to a lack of funding, it remained only a prototype. But the model's main sporting triumph finally happened in June 1973. On the highway near Wrocław, Polish drivers set 3 world endurance records. The Fiat raced continuously day and night, breaking records at distances of 25 and 50,000 kilometers, with an average speed of over 138 kilometers per hour. But the golden era couldn't last forever. In the 80s, Poland was hit by a deep economic crisis and martial law, imposed to crush protests. This hit the auto industry catastrophically hard. Build quality at the FSO plant fell to a critical level. Cars were assembled with defective parts, they skimped on everything, and the metal started rusting almost on the factory assembly line. From a premium dream machine, the big Fiat gradually turned into a problematic, although vitally necessary, bucket of bolts. Despite the crisis, the designers did not give up. There was even a frankly crazy project, a fully electric Fiat 125P. They equipped it with a 13-kilowatt motor and lead-acid batteries. The range was 100 kilometers, top speed, 80 kilometers per hour. The project failed due to the weight of the batteries, which was 320 kilograms, but the attempt was revolutionary for the 1970s. The original Italian Fiat 125 was taken off the assembly line back in 1973, but the Polish copy lived on until 1991. During this time, almost 1.5 million cars were assembled and exported to over 80 countries. In Hungary, it was called the Big Pole. In Yugoslavia, the Little Iron. And in Finland, the pickups were sold as the Horse. In the UK, right-hand drive Fiats were in huge demand as the cheapest sedans available. The British liked the retro style, but the downside was terrible corrosion resistance. In the damp climate, the body simply crumbled from rust. After the collapse of the socialist bloc and the opening of borders, the old big Fiat couldn't compete with the flood of used foreign cars from the West. In 1991, the era ended. We have to admit that the Poles tried to move forward. Back in 1978, they released the FSO Polonaise to replace the 125. But in reality, it was just a new, more modern body, stretched over the same outdated technical base from the Fiat. The Fiat 125P lost the battle for the market, but remained in history. For several generations, it became their first own car, a symbol of success and a ticket to freedom of movement.